Good morning. This is another Filebot video for Plex users. I looked up what I needed to know to learn how to add the TMDB number into the expression for Filebot for movies. So I'll leave this up on the screen for a little bit. This would do the movie name, year, and then this part would give you the TMDB ID number properly in brackets like Plex requires. And then this is the expression for the video format, the video codec, audio format, audio codec, and for Filebot to discover the subtitle language. I was using this expression, which had all the extra info except for the TMDB ID number. And before that, I simply added the video format, video codec, and the subtitle expression to Filebot. I'm not going to talk about TV shows in this video, but if you're new to Filebot, here's the expression to use for TV shows. And this would be to use Filebot manually to rename files in place before moving them to your media folder for Plex. So if we go to Plex's naming convention for movies, this talks about the non-legacy movie agent being able to use the source ID. I'm not 100% sure, but I think since Plex updated the scanning agents, it will use it no matter how you've got Plex set up. I might be wrong, somebody can correct me on that. But I decided I wanted to add this to my Filebot expression for the movie database. So if you're brand new to Filebot, how to add your own custom expressions isn't that hard. When you get Filebot installed and up and running, this little area down here has presets. And if you go to Edit, you can select a new preset. And the most important thing to do here after you give it a name is to select which data source you're going to use. For movies, the default comes up the TMDB. We would be doing a movie one, so we choose the movie database, and then you can paste in or type in your preset. So you'll see I've got three different ones: movie current, TMDB ID, and extra info. The one I had been using up until this point, movie with video and audio and subtitle info, and then previous to that I was just using one with video info and the subtitle information. Now Filebot cannot discover what type of subtitle you may have, but it can identify the language. So I've got some movies that are almost partially prepped to send into Filebot. This last one here has a whole bunch of foreign subtitles, and it had two English ones. I don't have an example today that shows all three types of subtitle files you might come across, which would be forced for foreign audio language, the default subtitle file, or the hearing impaired subtitle file, also known as the SDH. But the file sizes can help you figure out what's going on. So this file size of this subtitle file is tiny compared to the other one, so I automatically know this is the forced audio. I don't know if this is a default subtitle file or the SDH hearing impaired subtitle file. So if I open it in a text editor, all I have to do is scan for examples of anything that would be there for the hearing impaired. So someplace here you might see in parentheses wind blowing, music playing, things like that. If the subtitle file doesn't have that, it's not an SDH subtitle. If it were, you'd simply rename it before you put it into Filebot as .sdh, SDH dot, so it'd be .sdh.srt. And then Filebot will pick that up. So this one is not an SDH, so we'll leave it alone. and this one is a forced, so we will name it forced.srt. And that's all the prepping you have to do. Now, there's a couple different Chinese subtitles here. There's 3 different ones. I'm not sure what the differences are. So Filebot will throw an error trying to rename 3. So I'll get rid of 2. And we'll just scan through. There's 2 Portuguese. It may be a hearing impaired versus a non-hearing impaired. I'm just scanning to look for parentheses, but I'm not sure if that would be appropriate for the Portuguese language. So again, I'm going to get rid of 1. And that'll prevent Filebot from throwing any errors. So I'll leave the odd subs in a separate folder. I'm not going to use them on my server. But I've already gone through and identified which sub was what on my folders that have subtitles. And here's another one that has extra foreign language. And we'll leave this duplicate here to show you the error that Filebot will throw up when it gets to it. So there's a couple different ways you can use Filebot. You can have a folder and simply highlight and drag them in. I can close Filebot down. I can go up one directory level, right click on the folder that has my files, and I can choose Open in Filebot. This is a Linux desktop. I'm running Elementary OS 6. So however you get them into Filebot is up to you. So right now, normally a match would give you the default matching option. So if I pick the movie database, that's going to be a very basic match. This opened on my other screen, so it can't easily identify this movie called Runt from 2020. I don't see that here, but sometimes there's a discrepancy. IMDb might have a movie listed as 2020, and the movie database might have it as 2021. So I'm just going to assume this is the right movie and select it. It's definitely not Run. And A Case of Blue is the same year mismatch. It's probably just the difference from how the source named it to what it's listed at TMDB. Alright, and you'll see that this is just a very simple name, and it's not doing a lot with the subtitles because the subtitle expression is not included in. So if I go to my custom expressions, let me just go down here and click my base one. We'll run through the same process. So now the file name has more information, and because we added that subt expression, Filebot can identify the language of the subtitle, whether it was named for the proper language originally or not. So if we go down here, we'll see all these subtitle files are named properly for the correct language. There's 2 Spanish ones. It'll throw an error when we go to rename it. And then so on for these subtitles. It picked up the forced addition that I added. So lastly, well, sorry, if we go to the second to last option, Filebot will add in some extra information. This time we're adding both the audio and video format and the codecs. So this example, 1080p, H.265 format, 6-channel audio, AAC version, and if we grab another movie, very similar. Looks like everything's going to be AAC audio. So now the last option is adding the TMDB number to the file. And you'll see how that's added in the same way that Plex expects it to be. In the brackets, TMDB dash the number end bracket. So at this point we can simply rename it. It's identified the subtitle files as being different based on how I prepped them, and I can just choose rename. This is telling you all the mismatch issues with subtitles. And seeing that none of them involve the English subtitles, I'm just going to skip them. And this is throwing up an error. The X says it could not rename these subtitles. So we don't have to worry about those. We knew they weren't going to work anyway. If I close subtitles down, and now if I go back into look at the movies, you'll see it's been renamed with the TMDB number, including the subtitle file. This one got two subtitles, the default and the SDH, which actually I had a renaming error. The bigger one is actually the SDH, so that's my mistake, but we can fix that manually. Of course, I can't have two subtitle files that exist that are the same. Okay, so now that's fixed. The smaller one is the default, the bigger one is the SDH. This one looks good. The only thing I'm going to do is, this is an unrated version, so I am going to add in a little bit of extra information to this. So any changes you make manually, both these file names have to be exactly alike until you get down to this part. So when Plex makes a metadata match, it ignores anything after the space dash space. So this is all extra information. Plex only uses this part, and now it'll use the TMDB part also. So it got these subtitles correct, and it didn't rename these. We knew about that, and if I wanted to include these on my server, it would name them correctly, or it would identify them correctly on the server. Before I move this, I will identify this movie to make sure it actually matches, because it was a little unsure. Got that subtitle correct, and all these subtitles are correct, including the ones that weren't duplicated. So that's basically it with Filebot. You can use it just out of the box as is, or you can put your own custom expressions in. I know I've done a bunch of Filebot videos in the past, but as I learn more about Filebot, I just want to pass this info on to anyone else who might want to use it. And you can have multiple expressions if you want. If you have a movie that might not be identified properly in Plex, well, you could do the Plex dance, and you could add the TMDB and not use this for all your movies, just the trouble ones. Thanks for watching. Happy Plexing.